Thank you for joining our webinar today. We've got an information-packed session designed to help you understand some of the key considerations when looking to move off a competing platform onto a Microsoft project or work management application. Let's get started. My name is Annie Levand, and I'm with a Microsoft Gold partner called Fragility. We've been implementing Microsoft project and portfolio management solutions, developing enterprise-level applications for over 19 years for large enterprises, including everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all their projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports and metrics to make project-based decisions. We're known for having a 98% on time, on budget track record for successfully implementing these solutions for clients. We offer services and solutions in three core areas: deployment and consulting services, Fragility's core business. We provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft Project Portfolio Management, including Microsoft Project Online, Project for the Web Soon-to-Be Planner, integrating PPM with a line of business applications, and delivering strategic portfolio management solutions to support top-level management planning. Fragility also offers a set of Hammerhead pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 19 years of experience, including a set of Hammerhead products that provide improved access to cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, connect data between your PPM system with Microsoft Teams, and extend connectivity into Active Directory to improve visibility, insight, and control over your work, people, and projects. New to our offerings is Hammerhead Power Pro, which is a pre-built solution crafted on the foundation of the Microsoft Power Platform and Project for the Web, along with a new planner. This offering is designed to help bring some of our lessons learned on this platform to your organization. Finally, Fragility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, designed to assist your PMO with gaining on-demand expertise on the solution supported. We have a full online automated e-learning offering that can improve consistency and adoption for your users of your project management tools. You can learn more about all of our services and solutions on our recently updated website, fragility.com. We have upcoming webinars covering sessions on best practices for Project, the new planner, Microsoft's AI Engine Copilot, and PPM processing tools. Also, we're hosting our 6th virtual project conference in October, where we'll be having a set of speakers sharing good practices and lessons learned around these solutions. You won't want to miss it. Sign up for this and all of our events following the links here, or ask for a copy of today's presentation. All videos from this and previous series are available on our best practice playlist on YouTube, listed on this page. Topics range from managing your digital transformation program using PPM technologies to integrating PPM with agile and line of business applications. Feel free to subscribe and access the library at any time and share with your colleagues. I'd like to introduce Rob Hirschman, partner here at Fragility, who will be talking us through today's content. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Annie, and thanks everyone for joining. Today's session is really geared around a lot of folks that came to us and said, hey, we're looking to get off a competing platform, a non-Microsoft project management or work management platform. We'd really like to learn a little more about, how do we get to Microsoft from these other platforms? And that can range everything from kind of your high-end traditional PPM tools like a PlanView or a Clarity or HP, all the way over to kind of basic work management tools like Monday.com and Smartsheet and Asana. So we thought we'd put this together for you with some very targeted guidance based on our experience moving folks off of those kind of competing platforms onto a Microsoft work management platform. So we'll talk about, why would you want to move to a Microsoft platform? We'll then go through the specific Microsoft technologies that are available, so you can start to think about which application or platform would map best to what we're trying to accomplish. Also start to talk about the structure and the type of information you typically want to move. It's not just about one thing. There's lots of different components if you think about what you'd want to move from one system to another. So we're going to break that down for your planning purposes. We'll talk about an approach to migrating, things you want to look at as you're going through planning for a migration, as well as sharing some good practices. We've been doing migrations onto the Microsoft platform for almost 19 years, from competing platforms, no platforms, other outside platforms as well as Microsoft platforms. So we'll give you some guidance, and then we've got some time at the end for some question and answer. But let's get right to the content. So, we talk about, why would an organization want to make the move to a Microsoft platform? And we find 6 or 7 really good reasons people look to Microsoft. The first one on the top left is really about platform consolidation. If you think about organizations that have become all in on Microsoft 365 or become fully Microsoft centric and are Microsoft shops, they're trying to get off competing platforms so they can pull it into a single platform, which makes it secure, makes it safe, but also allows for data security and data access. So everything is really stored in one central cloud. Less risk, lower cost over time, and just easier to manage a single set of cloud applications versus multiple vendors. We also look at app simplification, and that's really instead of, again, having 4 or 5 or 6 different applications that are out there to support work and project management, really, if you can have 2 or 3, make sure they're Microsoft applications and then cater those to specific user communities you have versus, again, having to have subscriptions with a lot of third-party companies. You have to worry about security, you have to worry about licensing, you have to worry about really negotiating those fees over time, really a lot of things around that that really lead to app simplification. The third one is security risk management. As organizations start to look at these third-party platforms, there's always risk involved in that. And going down the road of where is the data living, where is it stored, secure at rest, how do we have access to it? When you're in a Microsoft platform, you know what you're getting. A safe, secure platform that's already been vet through your vetting process. So security management is really important. One of the big drivers is always cost reduction. We want to save some money. A lot of folks go to some of these web-based platforms or have the more expensive PPM platforms, and those fees are going up every year, and they'll jump up sometimes 10, 15, 20%, upwards of 50 or 60% in years 2, 3, and 4. So really looking at a cost reduction strategy where you already have locked in pricing from Microsoft and your Microsoft reseller that you can leverage. You're comfortable that those prices aren't going to be going up in the next 3 years, and Microsoft keeps a steady amount of cost in there. Then we start looking at really the benefit of some of the user experience. We look at the integration with some of your existing Office 365 apps. People end up spending 70 or 80% of their day in Microsoft Teams. These tools should work with Microsoft Teams. So again, when you're working with a third-party product, it's less secure. You're less sure that those things are going to happen. With Microsoft, everything's going to generally work together nicely. Also providing a single, unified, better user experience. Folks are familiar and comfortable with Microsoft applications. So again, using core Microsoft apps versus third-party apps, it's a lower user threshold, easier to drive use and adoption. People are more comfortable with them. And then again, if you have to constantly teach people third-party products, it can get a little bit frustrating. And finally, one of the big drivers here is really improved data access. Instead of, again, having your data out in a third-party cloud or something, it's all in Office 365, and it's all in a database that you can access and report off of versus having to go and tap into a different data source, use a third-party reporting tool. You can leverage tools like Microsoft Power BI to access that data. So, why make the move? In your mind, it may be one or many of these different reasons. And there are really different applications that Microsoft offers. And if we look at really the work structure, from a very basic work structure to maybe kind of moderately structured work and projects to more complex projects, programs, and portfolios. And if we look at kind of the basic work structure, we're looking at Microsoft Planner. And that is the visual task management tool that's available in Office 365. It comes with the Microsoft Office licenses, so it's free for end users. And it's a very good, easy way for people to get in and start using these tools. The second tool in the stack is called Project for the Web. There are some changes going on around this right now, but this is really a light project management tool in Office 365, really designed to support business project management or kind of lighter project management, if you think about it. Kind of people that need to manage projects but don't have a lot of project management background that might be part of maybe a business group like marketing or operations or finance. Project for the Web nicely is built on the Microsoft Power Platform, which is Microsoft's Office 365 development platform, where you can develop different kind of apps for different use cases. And all that data sits on a database called the Dataverse, so you could do reporting out of that as well. So again, as you start to expand out the use cases and the needs for some business groups or maybe IT, you can start to expand the solution out. You're not just stuck with what Microsoft provides. And we call that kind of moderate work structure or complexity when we're looking at true projects. And then finally, Microsoft's traditional project and portfolio management applications, Project Professional, the desktop client, and Microsoft Project Online, the full PPM client, which Microsoft continues to support, more traditional PPM service based on the SharePoint platform. That's where you have very large, complex projects, or you have a PMO, or you're doing larger initiatives. So what are some of the changes going on right now? They were announced back in November. They've been rolling out in the commercial clouds really over the last 4 or 5 months, and now they're starting to hit the government cloud in the next 60 to 90 days. So what's going on is Planner and Project for the Web are being blended together into a single application called the New Planner. And how you know if you have the New Planner is if you go into Teams, you click on the app called Planner. If you see the checkbox here, the purple and the blue, the New Planner has already been deployed into your tenant. You may see the traditional one, the green is still out there, and the green Project for the Web, that's still out there today in the web, but through Teams, it's all been integrated into a single platform. And again, there's two flavors of this new planner. There is your traditional planner, the visual task management tool, again, comes free with 365. And then there's the premium version of this. It has premium functionality. This is what used to be Project for the Web for those business project managers. And that's where you're going to start looking at needing a license, a planner or project plan one license to use that specific technology. So think of them as really blended together. Microsoft saw enough commonality between the applications where they're bringing it together, and they're also using the central assignments tool that's in Teams, so you can see all of your tasks and all of your plans and projects all in one place from these two tools. Now they're unified. Again, this is live in commercial tenants as of April 2024. We're looking at a target release in GCC or government community cloud tenants later this year, over the next 60 to 90 days, ideally. Initially, you'll only see this in Microsoft Teams. So if you go into the Teams interface, you look up Planner, you insert it into Teams, you see those checkboxes, you know you're now in the new planner, and you can either have the basic or the premium, which will show up when you build a premium plan, little checkbox there. Those licenses also include access to something called the Power App for this. We mentioned this is built on the Power Platform. So let's say you wanted to extend the use of Planner out to capture metadata about your plans. Maybe it's risks, issues, changes, status. You can build a Power App around that and then have the core functionality of Planner and Planner Premium in there, and then extend that out and then do all of your reporting in Power BI. So as use cases come up across the business, maybe you want to do some workflows or some integrated reporting or capture cost or health information about projects, you can do that with that Power App. And finally, Project Professional, Project Online, they're staying as is. They're being steady state. They're being managed by Microsoft. They know a lot of people are already heavily reliant on these technologies, so those are not going away as well. So you do have the option of going with kind of the new planner flavors or the traditional PPM at the bottom. So let's talk about what it takes to migrate. When we look at that, what kind of data would we want to migrate from a technology outside of Microsoft into one of these Microsoft applications? Well, the first thing that most people come up with is say, hey, we want to move our schedules. We have task lists, we have a WVS, we have schedule related information. We want to move that. And that's one piece of information. But there's a lot of other information most folks capture about their projects they tend to not think about. Another piece of information is project related metadata and fields of information. And that can be on every project. You may have data about the department or the charge code or the sponsor or the business user or the application. So this would be all metadata related to your projects, something to think about. You're not just moving the schedule, you're moving metadata and fields or custom fields of information that you typically use to track, manage, and also report on your projects. The third thing we see, if you're in, again, a traditional PPM tool, a centralized system configuration. And that configuration may have everything from the security model and the roles built in to the different views of data that are going to be built that you're using today. How do you access different views? Could be access to data or metadata there. It could be notifications, who gets notifications. It could be task management in there. But the configuration on what you have set up in your current system, you may want to think about how am I going to set up the new system and how am I going to port that over? That's something to consider as well. Also, most folks have project-related documentation. Deliverables on projects, test documents, requirements documents, design documents. Those are all stored in some kind of collaboration site. They may be in Microsoft Teams, they may be in SharePoint, they may be in that third-party product. You want to think about, well, if I'm doing a migration, I probably want to migrate some of that or plan for how that's going to be managed in the new system as well. So think about project documentation. We also want to start looking at resources. So any other tool you'll be using typically has some kind of a central resource list or a resource pool. And that's where you're going to put all your resources. You're going to assign different things like skills and manager and groups and departments and capabilities in there. And then you've got unique metadata about those resources. Those are going to need to be moved as well. And so as you think about moving to a Microsoft platform, do I have existing resource data and metadata? Is it very basic or is it more complex? And if I'm doing kind of resource capacity and demand management, I may have a whole database of information about my resources. I may want to think about moving that into the new tool as well. So thinking about resource data is really, really important. You may also have what we call project-related entities. Those could be things like, hey, on every project today, we have a risk log or an issue log, your traditional kind of RAID action items and decisions and deliverables or changes. Maybe you have that out there, whether it's in Excel or SharePoint or the other tool, you may want to think about moving that over as well. So think about kind of project-related entities with the data associated with them that you may want to port over into your new product. Timesheets. So if you are using a third-party system, a PPM system, you may be tracking time in that system. You may be heavily reliant on the hours that are collected there for billing back business units or capturing CapEx and non-CapEx activities or OpEx. you've got timesheet data and probably a big history of that data you may need for audit and compliance and reporting perspective. You got to think about, how am I going to move that over? What am I going to do? Do I save that historically? You're also probably going to have a whole slew of reports. Most organizations we go into that want to do a migration, they say, great, we've got 30 reports in this other system. Well, the question really is, how many of those do you actively use today? Which ones provide value? And which ones must you have in the new system versus other ones you can keep in the old one? And that's existing reports, because everybody's going to want to get data out based off their level of information and what they want to get status on. Finally, a lot of organizations have built out custom components on these platforms. Maybe they've made some kind of a log or a financial log where they're capturing all the finances or the spending, or maybe an invoice log as well. Any kind of custom elements you've built onto that system, you might want to actually think about, am I going to move them or am I going to sunset them as well? And the last thing is, a lot of organizations we work with have integrated their project management system with another tool, whether it's a financial tool or a human resources tool. These tools can be integrated nicely, or a system management tool, or something like a ServiceNow from an intake perspective. If you've got that integration flowing, you may want to actually report that over and have some kind of integration between that existing system and your new project management system as well. So when we think about it, a lot of people come and say, oh yeah, help us migrate. Well, which of these things do you want to migrate? We need to start asking certain questions. There's considerations around this as well. So just things to think about when you're looking at migrating. And just a lot to think about, and you want to sit down and really start with a plan. When we look at a technical approach to migration, we take that list of components on the left, from schedules and task lists and metadata to your configuration for your documents, your resources, your RAID items, timesheets, reports, and custom components. And then we can start to map that over to the 3 Microsoft products that we talked about before. The first one in that second column is Traditional Planner, right? Which is basically a visual task board. And with Traditional Planner, there's really only 2 things we can bring into the tool. We can bring our project schedules or our task lists into the tool, but we have to go in and manually enter them. There's no magic way to click a button and pull that into Planner. All the other stuff, minus the documentation and collaboration sites, are not connected. And those are things Planner doesn't support today out of the box. So you may want to move your project documents over. Planner leverages Microsoft Groups, which has SharePoint Online behind it, which ties into Teams. So we may go through the process of saying, we're going to use Basic Planner and a Microsoft team that has a document library. We want to move all those tasks over for really basic plans, and the documents will come over as well. So that may be part of your overall strategy. The next column over is the new Planner Premium, which used to be called Project for the Web. And here we have a lot of options in terms of what we can bring over. For project schedules and task lists, we can take those, export them from your current system, put them in what's called an MPP file, which is a Microsoft project format, and then we can suck that in. And then that data will now live in our new Planner Premium tool. We can then go into the Power App, which is on the back end of this, to actually import and update project-related metadata and fields, maybe a central system configuration, maybe a resource table and a resource list, your RAID items, we can replicate those as well. Certain things here we can also do through SharePoint and groups, and that would be the project documents. So as we create different groups in Office 365, again, a SharePoint site comes along with that, and we can come up with a strategy for moving project-related documentation and using those collaboration sites either through SharePoint or Microsoft Teams, which are designed to integrate together. When we look at timesheets, that is a limitation. So today, Planner Premium does not have the ability to do detailed time tracking. So that's just something it's not going to be capable of. So if you're moving off of a platform and you don't need to do timesheets, you're going to be fine. If you do need to do timesheets, we have to come up with some solutions. Reporting really depends on the existing technology you're using today. A lot of people like to take their past reports and mimic them in the new system. Some people want to start from scratch. You have lots of options. We want to start looking at Microsoft platforms for reporting, like Power BI, that might be more suitable versus the existing reporting tools you have. And then again, custom components or system integration, we really need to take a look at that. Those are going to be really unique to your use cases. If we go to the far right, where we're looking at Microsoft Project Professional and Project Online, we have a similar set of mapping here. We can bring project schedules in through that MPP file, but we can also take an XLS or a CSV file, move that in, put it in the system, and then publish those out. So there's actually a multi-step process for doing that. We can actually work with your PMs to do that and come up with a good strategy. But in terms of the project metadata and the system configuration, we do have the ability to go in there and mimic some of that in the Project Online system. The documents and collaboration sites, just like with the other solutions, are going to be stored in SharePoint and SharePoint Online. The resource and resource metadata is going to come over into the Project Online Central Enterprise Resource Pool. Those RAID items are going to come into SharePoint. So you could do a manual migration, or you could use an automated tool like a ShareGate if you already have those in something like SharePoint on-premise or in the cloud. Timesheets are really interesting. So if you have timesheets historically in a system, we don't natively have a way to get that in. So Project Online does have a timesheet capability. A lot of our clients will sunset that, or they'll move it into a data warehouse and then put all the new timesheet information all merged together. So you could have a historical snapshot and look at your new stuff coming up. Reporting, again, same story as with the new Planner Premium. We're looking at Microsoft technologies. We really have to examine what you have. And then custom components. We really have to analyze those against what's in the system, as well as systems integration. So there are definitely roads to getting data from other systems in the tool. It just depends on which tool you want to go to, which is really important. And with that, I did want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the lighter project management tools. So recently, we've worked with a lot of clients, and run into proliferation of these web-based light project management tools, things like Monday.com and Smartsheet and Basecamp, where clients are looking to get off those tools. In our experience, there are certain challenges to consider as you look into making these changes. The first one of those is these are often lightly structured applications. If you talk to your end users, they may use them for 1 or 2 or 3 different business cases. They don't have a central configuration a lot of times, which makes it hard to come up with a migration strategy because you're essentially you're trying to migrate 10 apps instead of 1. And that's just one of the risks associated with this. The second thing about these lighter project management tools, a lot of times they're customized by the end users. Nobody's calling IT to customize them. And that's why people really love them, because if they need to go make a field or create a workflow or create something like that, end users can do it on their own, which is fantastic. The downside of that is now you have a configuration that's not centrally managed or controlled by IT. So when you look at migrating, you're looking at, well, maybe we have 30 different uses of the same tool. You have to determine what are you actually going to migrate. And then you have to analyze all 30 different use cases by each group or each department, or even down to the individual level. It actually adds a lot of risk and a lot of work. So, because of that end user proliferation and end users controlling these apps, it makes it much more difficult. And they often don't have a standard configuration of any kind. Also, we find that the use cases and workflows in these lighter project management tools are moved outside what we call traditional project and work management. We've seen some of them from marketing groups where they've built marketing calendars and marketing activities that have nothing to do with the project schedule or detailed work management at all. It's actually a marketing workflow. We have operations groups that are using this to kind of track all of their assets and that they have and do more asset management in the tool. Again, that has nothing to do with project management or project delivery. Those kind of use cases would fall out of what a traditional project or work management tool would do, and they'd need some kind of other tool. Also, the setup of your configuration may not be documented. A lot of times when end users go in and make changes, they're not updating a configuration feed or requirements document. They're just making the change, and then they're publishing that out, and now users go and use the new configuration. So without that documentation, it makes it very hard to scope a migration, if you can think about it, right? Additionally, a lot of these web-based tools kind of lock you in, and this is why a lot of folks look to get off of them on the Microsoft platform. There may not be an easy way to get that data and that content out, essentially by design. They want to hook you into the thing so you can't get out of it. And by doing that, you'll have to go and pull multiple reports or Excel spreadsheets. You can't actually get to the database that's behind the scenes. And that makes it really hard to come up with a migration strategy when you can't actually analyze the data and the content you're trying to migrate out. So when you're looking at coming off of Smartsheet or Monday or Asana or Basecamp or any of those, the real big question you want to ask first is you want to make sure the use cases you're looking to move actually fit into what a project or work management tool do. We had one insurance company we work with that actually laid out the 30 different use cases they had across the business, and only 7 of them actually mapped to core project or work management. Everything else was something like asset management or marketing calendaring, things that really aren't traditional. So those may require different kinds of technologies or tools if you're looking to get off them, or you may want to keep them on that tool and move your more traditional workloads onto a Microsoft project or work management platform. So just some things to consider if you've got these lighter tools in your environment. So, with that, we want to talk a little bit about what are some good practices for organizations that have successfully gone down this road of migrating off of these different platforms. The first of those is you really want to analyze what you're trying to do from a business perspective and build a really good strategy for migration. Why are you doing this? What is the overall business strategy for doing this? What are the key drivers? What are some of the metrics? And what are you really going to do? What do you need to do to be successful with this migration and getting off this other platform? A lot of organizations we work with take what we call a red line approach. They draw a red line in the sand and they say, okay, we're only going to move stuff that's, at a certain point in the project. We're going to look at active projects today that maybe go through the next 6 months and future projects and not really pull the full history. Maybe we'll pull down or export out data of the history of all of our projects and resources and work, but all of these current and new projects coming up, they're really the ones we want to put in the system. So really coming up with a strategy that draws that red line and figures out what do you actually need in the new system, and then determining what do you want to put into it. And then what you want to do is also think about developing a specific approach to your historical data from that other system. Even if it's going away, do you want to export it all out? Can you put it in a database somewhere so you can archive it? Do you need it for audit purposes or data retention purposes? Come up with some kind of a historical data approach versus just saying, take everything we have and put it in the new system. That's not always a successful way to do it. So really think about the strategy and what your strategy is going to be for migrating to this new platform. You also want to think about, what data and information do we have today that we really, really need to move? Maybe we've built in issues and risks and action items and deliverables, and we've got a change log. And maybe we think, we actually don't use half of that stuff. Or maybe we've got 30 reports, but again, we only use 10% of those. Really come and do a rationalization, say, what do we need? What do we have? And what do we want going forward? So, and why do you need to save that data? That's the most important thing. Migrations are inherently difficult because there's no magic go button. You can't just click an easy button and move stuff over. So really start thinking about, what do you need to move and why? Also understand, you may have to go back and work with the people that own your data in the business and understand the structure of their data and the content. Because again, most of the time they're not documenting what they've done with these applications unless you have a centrally managed PPM application. Understand the data, the structure of it, how they use it, and why they use it a certain way. And that'll really help you drive your strategy for migration. Do I really want to migrate them, or do I want to start from scratch? Do I need their data at all? And this involves really training, not only training, but involving the team members that have those current apps today in any migration effort you do. This is going to help you drive buy-in. They're involved in designing the new system, testing the new system, and being trained on the new system. They're going to be able to give you their feedback, and they're going to be an active part of the process. Now, it's going to take more time. It might cost a little more money, but actually, in the end, you'll probably get a better result and have better data, and they'll be buying into the new application, and they won't sneak back and start using the old application or request it in the future. Keep in mind that any new system you put in place, whether it's a Microsoft or different application, it's always going to function differently from what they use today. Every tool works differently, and you really want to plan for this right from the beginning. A lot of the data they have today may not be a good fit. If you go into tools like Smartsheet, you have workflows at a task level. I mean, project management tools in Microsoft don't do that for a reason. Workflows are at different levels. So if you think about that, they're going to have to rethink about how they apply workflow. What does something like workflow mean, and how they're going to manage the flow of tasks and activities in a Microsoft structure versus a tool like a Smartsheet. So really think about that and plan for this. Keep in mind, if you are using timesheets in any of these tools, or you built a time tracking mechanism, this data is really, really hard to move. There's a lot of it. Time phase data in a timesheet is a resource on a task over a period of time, daily, hourly, weekly, monthly. You're talking potentially millions of records to move into a new system that's going to be mapped very differently than the current one. So really think about archiving or reporting on that data and moving on. If you need to use timesheets in the new Microsoft system, use them, but start from scratch, because taking timesheet data and moving it in can create an absolute mess if that's something you want to do. So just a recommendation. If you are changing reporting tools, if you're moving off of something like Tableau or Business Objects onto Power BI, consider doing total redesigns of these reports. A lot of your reports in the other tool may be really old or may not be used by many people. And this is a really good opportunity to kind of back up, figure out what you really need, look at what the Microsoft platform offers, and start to redesign that for the next wave of your project and work management tools. It allows you the opportunity to really rethink and modernize your reports. And people always appreciate that. Not only are they getting a new tool, but they're getting a report that's more useful to them. It's mapped to their current needs versus something they had 3 or 4 years ago that was useful at that point. So again, think about the impact reporting tools have, because we find about 40 or 50% of the users will access their data through reports and reporting tools. With history comes bad practices. And what we try to recommend is you try not to bring over kind of bad data and bad practices that can often come with legacy data. And in a lot of organizations that have used kind of these high-end PPM tools, and their project managers have built schedules that aren't really well structured. Maybe they don't have dependencies, they're not using milestones, they're not updating actuals, they may not be doing work or duration-based estimating, whatever it is. If you take that and you just dump it out and then move it into a tool like Project, Project's going to treat it like Project does, but it's going to be kind of inconsistent data. And it's a really good opportunity to back up, take a look at your data structures, take a look at how you structure your project data, and come up with a new approach to that that maps to how you want to track, manage, and report on your projects and your work. That actually cleans out the whole bad practices thing, and it helps you really go forward with a better approach to it. So you have better processes, and then train people on those processes as well. So again, if you can leave data behind, a lot of times it can be good, and use that data to really inform where you're headed. And as part of any migration, we always have a phase where we actually look at the existing data and structures and come up with recommendations based on the requirements you have. Finally, this is a really good opportunity to do some cleanup, to not only clean up your data, but rethink some of your processes and how you do things in terms of how you start a project, how you manage it, how you communicate during it, how you report on it, when those things happen by what players, and use this as a redesign opportunity or a modernization opportunity, so you don't go in from one system that has bad data into another one that has bad data. You want good data you can rely on to drive business decision making. So really think about using this as a really good cleanup opportunity. And those are really some migration good practices if you are thinking about coming onto a Microsoft platform from another technology. And what we tend to find is with any technology project, but migration specifically, there's really three key components to making this change. There's the people side of things. And you're always going to be thinking about what role do people play, but really training end users on an entirely new system so they know how to use it, but also what do they do in the tool and how the data they enter impacts other people. Again, a great time to redesign that, involve those people in the process. It also helps you reintroduce how you'll be using a tool and put a solid communication strategy in place so everybody is on the same page and knows not only what they need to do, but why the change was made to the new technology. It wasn't just to save money, it was to get better data out and deliver more projects on time and on budget than we had before. This can help you really drive buy-in and get some of your key users involved from day one. That people aspect is huge in these migrations. And a lot of people take a technology approach to migration when backing up, involving the people does make an impact and does have a difference. It can make adoption a lot easier, especially if you're moving off a different platform than a Microsoft one. Finally, let them own part of the data migration process. It may seem a bit counterintuitive to put more work on their plates, but by doing that, they actually own adoption of the new system. It'll drive user buy-in, it'll drive that adoption, and people will be more bought in if they're a part of the process from the beginning. So just by magically moving data over and they see their old data in the new system, it doesn't necessarily solve a problem. But if you involve them in that process, give them a little more work, then they'll say, hey, maybe we need to do things a little different, or maybe we just structure our projects a little different. So it really gives the opportunity to have that conversation. There's always the process side of things. So a lot of times when people are moving to a new tool like a Microsoft tool, they're actually rethinking their process. Maybe they're putting a formal PMO methodology in place, or they're restructuring it with fewer phases, streamlining the workflow, or maybe they're moving to Agile, right? And they've got Agile or a hybrid methodology that the current technology doesn't support. It's a great time to kind of rethink all of that and put the right process in place. And finally, the technology. Technology does have a pretty prominent role here. At the end of the day, you are deploying a new technology. But remember, at the end, this is not just a technology change. It's potentially a change in how people work and the expectations you have on them from the data and information sharing perspective. It's a really great opportunity to not only move them to a new, more effective tool, but also get them to buy in on that tool and drive that adoption so you have better data to make decisions on your work, your projects, and your people. So our goal today was really give you an overview. If you are thinking about getting off of a non-Microsoft platform, a competing platform, again, whether it's a high-end tool or kind of a base web tool, some of the different things to think about. We do provide a lot of support and services for our clients that are looking to migrate off them. So if you need any assistance, you can definitely reach out. Annie will talk about that in a second, but I'm going to hand it back to Annie to see if we have any questions in the queue. Annie?
Thanks for all the info, Rob. Hopefully folks found this useful. We'll now open the floor to questions and answers. Remember to enter your questions in the questions and answer manager at the top of your team screen. Let's see if there's any questions in the queue. I don't see any questions right now, but if you'd like to type away really quick, we can address them. If there are no questions, we can move on. If you're thinking about moving off a different platform onto one of the Microsoft options discussed today and are looking for help, reach out to us. Our team has extensive experience helping clients drive solid education adoption of the latest Microsoft project and work management applications. This includes capabilities to review your current system's data and content and developing an approach alongside your team that will drive good use and adoption of these technologies. We also provide post go live ongoing support, so you always have someone to rely on as questions, challenges, or enhancement needs comes up. You can get in touch with us via email at info@fragility.com or hit our website and submit a request there. Thank you again for joining the webinar today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you online for our virtual project conference in October. Have a great day.